Do not count out Bailey Zappe. We'll explain why here on Patcast.
Jacoby Brissett is down, has left the game, driving us insane. We're here on Patcast. Drake Maye is not ready.
Welcome to Patcast. I'm Brad Whitaker. The talk ever since the NFL draft has been all about Drake Maye, future franchise quarterback for the New England Patriots. All the upside in the world. We expect him to potentially become a superstar NFL quarterback just because he has all the traits, he has the size, he has the arm strength. But the truth is, and Jerod Mayo mentioned this at the NFL owners meetings long before the Patriots drafted Drake Maye, he may have a high ceiling, but he also has a low floor, meaning he has all the room in the world to grow and to develop. And it is the polar opposite situation compared to Mac Jones when he was in New England, who went to the league with a pretty high floor and a low ceiling. Not to mention Mac Jones only had to beat out Cam Newton, and yeah, Cam Newton's very athletic, but let's be honest, he couldn't throw the damn football. It was not hard. Mac Jones was clearly the better quarterback in training camp, and he won the job, started week one, ended up working pretty well for his rookie season, learned the playbook quickly, was very accurate, good decision maker. But as we all saw, the Patriots did not put the proper infrastructure around him. He didn't turn out to be a very mentally tough quarterback. And as a result, he regressed the next two seasons. And that's why we're in the situation right now where the Patriots had to draft a quarterback at third overall. But Drake Maye, again, couldn't be more opposite of Mac Jones. A lot of size, a lot of arm strength, a lot of athleticism, a lot more elusive, can run with the football, good at QB sneaks, but not a very good, short, accurate thrower, and it's probably going to take him a little bit of time to learn the playbook, even though I think it's not going to be quite as complex a playbook as it was under Josh McDaniels. Not to mention, Drake Maye has far superior competition than Mac Jones did with Cam Newton, because he has Jacoby Brissett there. He has another rookie quarterback, Joe Milton, out of Tennessee. Very similar traits to Mac Jones, athletic, probably the best arm in the draft, Joe Milton, so Drake Maye's probably the second best arm in the draft. And let's not forget, Bailey Zappe is still on the roster. The Patriots did cut Nathan Rourke, but right now that quarterback room has 4 QBs. And it is very possible that the Patriots enter the season with 4 quarterbacks on the roster, a la 2001, when Tom Brady was entering his second year in the league, and we all know what happened there. But with Drake Maye, if he's not ready to start, does that mean he's going to be ready to be the backup? Because quarterbacks get hurt all the time in the NFL. You look at the Cleveland Browns, what happened last season, they played 5 different quarterbacks, eventually brought in Joe Flacco. Alex Van Pelt worked very well with Flacco. That's why I'm excited to have him as the offensive coordinator. But if Drake Maye's not ready to be an NFL starter, then that probably means he is not ready to be an NFL backup, because again, his floor is very low relative to all these other top quarterbacks in the draft. And you can probably say the same thing about Joe Milton, who's even more raw than Drake Maye actually is. So that brings up the question, where does that leave Bailey Zappe? Now, we've seen this in the past, right? Tyrod Taylor was the starting quarterback for the LA Chargers the year that they drafted Justin Herbert. Taylor went down with a pretty gruesome injury, I think in the first half of week 1. Justin Herbert came in the game. He's held the job ever since. We saw a similar situation with Josh Allen, where Nathan Peterman was the number 1 quarterback on the roster. The team went down 40-0. They put in Josh Allen in garbage time. He looked okay. And then he never gave up the job. He's been the starting quarterback ever since. I don't think Drake Maye is going to be in the same situation. Jacoby Brissett goes down week 1. Drake Maye's the backup then? And he comes in and he never gives up the job. If he's not ready to start week 1 as the number 1 quarterback, then he probably shouldn't be the backup. Which leaves you with Bailey Zappe. And Bailey Zappe, I like a lot more than most Patriots fans. I made a podcast about him like 2 months ago where I said, let's not write this guy off. We know he's been working hard in the offseason, been working with a lot of the Patriots receivers, and we have to remember the situation that Mac Jones was put in, which ultimately destroyed at least the early part of his career, Bailey Zappe had significantly worse. First of all, he didn't get starter reps in training camp. I mean, the Patriots didn't have a lot of confidence in him. they cut him and nobody wanted to pick him up, so they re-signed him. But then Zappe ended up coming in about midway through the season, or a little bit beyond midway through the season, and didn't have Kendrick Bourne. The receiving core was banged up as a whole. Didn't have a great offensive line. They were banged up all season. Trent Brown had checked out long before Bailey Zappe took over. And yeah, Zappe had some rough games. The game against the Chargers was pretty rough. The final game of the season against the New York Jets in the snow, not great. But he also had two very good games where he actually looked like an NFL starter, both on the road against the Pittsburgh Steelers and against the Denver Broncos. So I do think the Patriots are in a much better situation offensively in terms of their roster than they were a year ago, just because they prioritized the offense in the draft, drafting all but one offensive player. And what ended up happening there is they double-dipped at wide receiver. They double-dipped on the offensive line. Now there's a lot of competition in both of those spots, right? Like, we don't know what the starting receivers are going to look like. You got Kendrick Bourne. You got Demario Douglas, who I would assume is the slot guy of the future and looks to be a real potential superstar. I'd say he was probably the second best rookie receiver in the NFL last season. And now you brought in Jalen Polk. You brought in Javon Baker. You brought in Austin Hooper at tight end. Hunter Henry is back. You got some reinforcements on the offensive line. Hopefully Caden Wallace is ready at left tackle, but you also got Okorafor, who you brought in, who could start at left tackle. Then you have Calvin Anderson, potentially, who we just found out was dealing with malaria last year. We're like, what happened to Calvin Anderson? He had malaria. Nobody had any idea. And Owenu looked good on the right side. David Andrews is back at center, and they got a lot of depth at both of the guard positions, whether that is Cole Strange or Sidy Sow, both starting at the guard positions, or some of these other guys that they brought in. They got a lot of depth there. So there's a lot of reinforcements at all of these positions across the board. We know the Patriots have a good running game with Ramondre Stevenson, a real third down running back, Antonio Gibson. I wouldn't be surprised if they brought in another running back at some point to be kind of third on the depth chart there. I think Stevenson's going to have a pretty big workload, though. But overall, is this the best offense in the league? Not even close. Is it in the middle? Potentially. This could potentially be a mediocre offense, and honestly, I will take mediocre at this point, because when Bailey Zappe was playing last season, it was bottom tier, like the worst or the second worst offense in the entire NFL. So if Jacoby Brissett goes down, he's the starter week 1, they don't feel like Drake Maye is ready, then Bailey Zappe will probably be the backup. And yeah, it's not an ideal situation, but I don't feel terrible about it, because Zappe had a couple of pretty good games last year with less support than he's going to have right now. And what if the Patriots hit in year 1 on some of these draft picks? What if they hit on Jalen Polk, who I do think is going to be ready and a strong NFL wide receiver in year 1? And, I don't think he has the ceiling as some of these other receivers, as like Xavier Legette or Coleman, but I think Jalen Polk is going to be very reliable. He's going to be a Jacoby Myers type right away. Javon Baker, I think, is going to need some time to develop, but he could turn into a true X, boundary, number 1 wide receiver. What if Caden Wallace is ready to start at left tackle? Now you have the infrastructure. And yeah, it may take some time for Drake Maye to be ready. I'm not saying Drake Maye can't win the job. He goes into training camp similar to Mac Jones and clearly is the number 1 quarterback on the roster. Yeah, he's going to start. Gerard Mayo's been very clear about that. This is going to be a competition at every position, including the quarterback position. Well, then Drake Maye will start, but in all likelihood, that's not going to happen. I wouldn't bet on it. I think Jacoby Brissett was brought in there at least as a 1-year bridge quarterback. And like I said, if Drake Maye is not ready to start, then he's probably not ready to be the backup. So then that leaves Bailey Zappe. And look, Zappe, he's taken the hits. He's built up the scar tissue. He's been working hard in the offseason. I'm not saying this guy's going to make the Pro Bowl. He's not. But as a backup for a rebuilding team that may have some draft picks that work out. I mean, a few of these draft picks are going to hit. Like, a few of these are going to hit just statistically, right? And a few of them statistically are going to be busts, right? But I would not be too sad if Bailey Zappe was number 2 on the depth chart. And as I mentioned, Patriots are also in an interesting situation because they have 4 quarterbacks on the roster right now. Let's assume I'm right. Let's say it is Jacoby Brissett at number 1, Bailey Zappe at number 2, well, then Drake Maye is going to be the third quarterback on the depth chart in that situation. Do they keep Joe Milton on the active roster? That's a big question because he does seem like an ideal guy that you develop over the course of 2 or 3 seasons. See if it works out. Patriots drafted him because there was just too much talent there. He just has a lot of things to clean up if he's going to be an NFL caliber quarterback. But the thing is, you put Joe Milton on the practice squad, he's emulating other quarterbacks when they're game planning week to week. Any team in the NFL could sign him to their roster. As long as they're willing to put Joe Milton on their active roster right away, they can pluck him from the Patriots. So I don't think the Pats are going to want to give up Joe Milton in that situation. So I wouldn't be shocked if they have 4 quarterbacks on the active roster heading into week 1 of the NFL season, and then we'll see how it plays out, right? So let me know what you think in the comments below. Is Jacoby Brissett, you think he's going to start number 1? And if that's the case, and the Patriots don't think Drake Maye is ready, would you put Drake Maye at number 2, like the Chargers did with Justin Herbert, like the Bills did with Josh Allen, who both took over week 1 of their respective seasons, rookie seasons? Or do you think you just put Drake Maye at number 2, and if Jacoby Brissett goes down, you throw him to the Wolves and see what happens regardless? I'm curious to hear from you. Let me know in the comments below. If you're watching on YouTube, be sure to like this video, subscribe to this channel, and click the notification bell so you can be alerted about future videos that come out, or subscribe if you're listening on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. We'll be back tomorrow with more Patriots coverage.
In the land of Foxborough where the Patriots reign, Jacoby Brissett is down, has left the game, driving us insane. We're here on Pat's Cast, Drake Maye is not ready. Talking about Bailey Zappe to steer the ship steady. He's still got potential. Can he handle the heat? Can he steer the ship if Drake Maye takes the seat? Pat's Cast debates it, passion in the air, analyzing every snap with no mercy to spare. Pat's Cast, hitting hard and fast, discussing QBs like it's a blast, breaking down the team week by week, talking the Patriots football with the mighty critique.